Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to demystify the world of quality. We are breaking down the absolute essential systems, the cycles, and the tools that really separate world-class organizations from, well, everyone else. We'll show you how they nail excellence time and time again.
So, let's start with the one question that just obsesses every single successful business out there, from a tiny startup all the way to a global giant. What is the secret to delivering consistent quality every single time?
So, first off, what even is quality? It's not just about a product being good or not having any defects. Real quality, it's about meeting a customer's needs, both the ones they tell you about and, maybe more importantly, the ones they just expect. In the end, it all just boils down to one thing: making the customer happy.
Okay, so how do organizations take this kind of abstract idea of quality and turn it into something real, something they can repeat over and over? Well, I'll tell you what they don't do. They don't just cross their fingers and hope for the best. Nope, they build a blueprint.
And that blueprint, that's what we call a quality management system, or a QMS. Now, this is not just some dusty binder sitting on a shelf. You got to think of it more like the organization's central nervous system for quality. It literally dictates the structure, the procedures, and all the processes to make sure everyone is working from the exact same playbook.
And a QMS is so much more than just a document. It's a living, breathing system. You see all these components here, from who's responsible for what to how you manage your data. They are all interconnected. They have to work together to create a culture that is laser-focused on just two things: satisfying the customer and always getting better.
Now, over the years, a few major philosophies have really shaped how organizations approach this. First, there's Total Quality Management, or TQM, which basically preaches that quality is everybody's job. Then you've got ISO 9000, which was like a universal playbook that standardizes processes so you can trust suppliers anywhere in the world. And then there's Six Sigma. That's the data-obsessed detective of the group, using pure statistics to hunt down and eliminate every last defect it can find.
So, we have our blueprint. But hey, a blueprint is just a piece of paper without an engine to bring it to life, right? That's exactly where these cycles of improvement come in. All right, when it comes to improving something that already exists, the absolute gold standard is the DMAI cycle. Think of it like a 5-step story for solving problems. First, you define the problem. Simple enough. Then, you measure just how bad it really is. Next, you analyze all the data to find the real root cause, not just the symptoms. Then you improve it with a targeted solution. And finally, and this is crucial, you put a control in place to make sure you never ever backslide.
Okay, but what if you're not just improving an old process? What if you're creating something brand new, completely from scratch? Well, for that, there's a cousin to DMAIC, and it's called DMAAV. It starts out pretty much the same: define, measure, analyze, but then it takes a sharp turn from fixing to creating.
And that right there is the crucial difference. It's actually super simple. You use DMAIC to fix or improve a process you already have. You use DMAVD when you need to design a totally new product or process from the ground up, making sure that quality is baked in from day one. So one is for fixing, the other is for creating.
Okay, so we've got our blueprint and we've got our engine for improvement. Now, let's get our hands dirty. It's time to open up the toolbox and look at some of the fundamental tools that people use to diagnose and solve quality problems every day.
Now, one of the most powerful tools in the whole kit is the Pareto chart. This thing isn't just any old bar chart. It is a priority-setting machine. It forces you to face the reality that not all problems are created equal. It shows you instantly which one or two issues are causing most of your headaches, so you can focus your energy where it's going to have the biggest impact.
And it's all based on this really famous idea. You've probably heard of it, the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. Basically, it says that for most things in life, roughly 80% of the problems come from just 20% of the causes. The Pareto chart is just the perfect way to see this in action and separate what we call the vital few problems from the trivial many.
Next up in the toolkit is the histogram. I want you to think of this as an X-ray of your data. Instead of just seeing one number, like an average, you get to see the entire picture. You can see where the results are all clustered together, how wide the variation is, and if there are any weird outliers. It's just a powerful snapshot of how your process is really behaving.
So why is this so useful? Well, the key question a histogram helps you answer is this: how often is a particular problem or a certain measurement actually happening? Instead of staring at a long, boring list of numbers, you can see the entire distribution in one quick glance, which makes patterns and variations pop right out at you. And of course, the toolkit doesn't stop there.
You've also got the fishbone diagram for brainstorming every possible cause of a problem you can think of. You've got simple check sheets for just gathering and tallying data, scatter diagrams to see if two things might be related, and control charts, which are super important, and we'll talk about them next, for keeping an eye on a process over time.
This all leads us to our final and maybe most important question. So, you've used your tools, you've gone through your improvement cycle, and you've actually made things better. Awesome. But how do you make sure the process stays improved? How do you keep it from sliding right back into its old bad habits?
Well, the answer is a really powerful discipline called statistical process control, or SPC for short. If you think of Demystifying as the engine that drives improvement, SPC is the control system that locks in all those gains and makes sure the process stays stable and predictable.
Here's the core idea behind it. Every process in the world has some amount of natural, random variation. SPC uses tools, like control charts, to tell the difference between that normal, everyday noise and a special cause that's signaling a real problem. It's kind of like a smoke detector for your process. It stays quiet during normal operation, but it sounds an alarm the moment things start to go wrong, letting you jump in and act before you have a disaster on your hands.
And that brings us right back to where we started. From these complex systems down to these simple charts, the goal is always the same. It's about focus. It's about cutting through all the noise to find what truly matters. So, as we wrap up, let me leave you with this question, and it's not just for business, but for anything you want to improve. Are you spending all your energy on the trivial many, or have you found the vital few causes that will truly make all the difference?